This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
موريتانيا مرة أخرى على وقع الانقلابات العسكرية. انقلاب جديد.
Mauritania is once again in the midst of a military coup d'etat. Today, the Mauritanian military staged a new coup in Mauritania, ending the short-lived democratic experience there, which Nouakchott took pride in. The Mauritanian president was overthrown this morning by the commander of the presidential guards, who seized control of the presidential palace. In addition, the army, which took control of the Mauritanian capital Nouakchott and vital installations and government buildings there, arrested the President of the Republic, Sidi Weld Sheikh Abdallah, as confirmed by the President's daughter, who described the incident as a real military coup. Abdallah was arrested at 9 a.m. local time and was taken away from his home to an undesignated location. The President, his Prime Minister, Yahya Weld Ahmed, and his Interior Minister remains in custody, with little information on their arrests or whereabouts.
بعد الانقلاب العسكري الذي نفذ قبل قليل، حيث تظهر وحدات الجيش منتشرة في شوارع نواكشوط بعد أن أحكمت سيطرتها على مقر التلفزيون والإذاعة الرسميين وطرد كافة موظفيها منها.
These images showing the streets of the Mauritanian capital Nouakchott were captured exclusively by Dubai television moments after the staging of the coup d'etat. The images are showing military units being deployed in the streets of Nouakchott, where they seized control of the state-run radio and television stations and fired their employees. Today's coup comes to end a chapter of democracy that Mauritania has lived in since the victory of Abdallah in the elections. Abdallah was handed over power from a military council which has run the country since the 2005 bloodless coup that toppled the former president Muawiyah Wal Sayed Ahmed Tai. Last May, Abdallah replaced his government after mounting criticism over the way it was dealing with the inflation crisis facing the country. Last month, the cabinet resigned after a resolution was issued to withdraw a vote of confidence from the government and replace it with a new one, but without the participation of the Union of Forces of Progress Party and the Islamic Contact Party. The political crisis in Mauritania has escalated to a boiling point. We're watching exclusive images captured by the news center of Dubai television station. We're watching some of the military activities underway in the Mauritanian capital, Nouakchott. There appears to be no street confrontations, and the situation seems to be relatively calm. Our correspondent is standing by on the ground to update us of any information that may unfold in and around the Mauritanian capital and the rest of the country. To recap, the Mauritanian capital Nouakchott witnessed today a coup d'etat, which was also confirmed by the president's daughter. The president was arrested by the troops and was taken away from his home to an undesignated area. It seems that there's a clear disagreement between the president and the military.
Political officials said that the United Nations supports a new plan to resolve the current election crisis in Iraq. The plan calls for holding elections in most of Iraq, but it leaves the fate of Kirkuk unresolved. These officials said that a proposal, which was made during last night's meetings, may provide an exit from this crisis, otherwise it may force the Iraqi government to postpone the elections, which Washington views as an important test for the new democracy in Iraq. The president of the Kurdish region of Iraq, Masoud Barzani, said that there is a conspiracy to pass the provincial election law. He believes that this law is against the Kurds and that they will never let foreign agenda determine what happens in Kirkuk.
جلسة من المؤمل أن تعقد Iraqi politicians hope that a parliamentary session will be held in order to reach an agreement, but what they hoped for did not materialize. The provincial election law is still on hold until a decision is made about the fate of Kirkuk. Its Arab and Turkmen population demand an equal political representation, but the Kurds reject this demand and insist that Kirkuk be included with the Kurdish region of Iraq.
Every hour we are surprised with a new proposal pertaining to Kirkuk. They are making impossible conditions in order to derail the political process and obstruct the provincial election law.
لحد الآن الاجتماعات والمباحثات مستمرة حول مادة 24 بخصوص مدينة.
So far, there are ongoing meetings and negotiations pertaining to conducting elections in Kirkuk. The UN proposed a reconciliation plan, which includes points of agreement and points of differences. The meetings continue.
موافقين عليها جميع الأطراف ولكن هناك نقاط خلاف بين جميع الأطراف واجتماعات مستمرة.
وفي خضم معركة عدم التوافق على الموازنة التكميلية.
So far, the parliament can't reach an agreement on the budget and on Kirkuk. If they fail to reach consensus, the local elections will be postponed until next year.
إلى العام المقبل.
Based on what has been happening, it seems that there are difficulties, and I think there are no tangible results from yesterday's meetings.
There are new proposals, and we hope that in the next few hours we can reach a final agreement so we can hold a voting session on the provincial election law.
Political observers believe that there is an urgency to resolve the provincial election law, since the Iraqi President Jalal Talabani rejected an earlier draft of the provincial election law, and since the Kurdish officials made statements saying that conspiracies are being hashed against them. This comes as the election committee announced that it has been witnessing the lowest rate of voting registration due to the ongoing differences in parliament. If negotiations fail to bring out an agreement on Kirkuk, then it is most likely that the country, which was once driven into sectarian wars, will be dragged into ethnic wars. If Iraqi politicians cannot reach an agreement, then how can 27 million Iraqis reach one? For Al Madr program, Duha Al-Haddad, Abu Dhabi Television, Baghdad.
وقد أفرجت إسرائيل عن 5 معتقلين فلسطينيين.
In the framework of its prisoner swap deal with Lebanon's Hezbollah party, Israel released 5 Palestinian detainees today. According to the spokeswoman of the Israeli Prison Authority, the released detainees are minors accused of throwing rocks and Molotov cocktail bombs at Israeli soldiers. The spokeswoman added that the release concludes the last phase in the prisoner swap deal signed with Hezbollah on July 16th.
The third and last phase in the prisoner and remain swap deal between Hezbollah and Israel was completed, with the release of 5 Palestinian detainees. The prisoners, who are minors accused of throwing rocks at the Israeli soldiers and whose sentences were about to run out, were released by the Israeli authorities into the custody of their parents and the Palestinian Authority of the Taiba checkpoint south of Tulkaram.
Thank God, I was released from prison. I commend Hassan Nasrallah on his efforts. God willing, Nasrallah will be able to help free other detainees, including men, women, as well as those serving life sentences.
The news of the release came unexpectedly, as the Israeli government only agreed to release 5 Palestinian minors in protest over a report submitted by Hezbollah regarding the fate of the Israeli pilot Ran Arad, in which Israel described as out of context. Israel was expected to release dozens of Palestinian detainees, including women, children, the ill, and some of those serving long sentences, such as the prisoner's veteran Saeed al-Attaba. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Authority believes that only through a comprehensive political deal that a large number of Palestinian detainees could be released.
This file will not end until we reach an agreement based on the release of all prisoners and detainees within a specific time frame. The release of all veteran prisoners, women, children, political leaders, and the ill must be taken into consideration in any deal, whether reached through political negotiations or through a prisoner swap.
All eyes are now focused on the possible prisoner swap deal between Israel and Hamas and what Israel referred to as goodwill gestures towards the Palestinian president. Meanwhile, the Palestinians hope that the release will include more than 40 ministers and MPs, with the head of the Legislative Council topping the list. The head of the Palestinian Legislative Council, who sent a letter on behalf of the prisoners, has called on Hamas and Fatah to open a political dialogue under the roof of the Palestinian parliament.
We hereby call on the government in Gaza and the presidential office in the West Bank immediately to stop all political arrests and release all political prisoners. We also call for the halting of all media rhetoric between the two sides.
Although Hezbollah was unable to free a large number of Palestinian detainees, Israel is getting ready to pay a higher price in its swap deal with the Hamas movement. Meanwhile, the Palestinians are lost between the suffering of their detainees held in Israeli prisons on one side and the ongoing division which may foil all efforts on the other. Jabara al-Budayri, Al Jazeera, occupied Ramallah.
According to medical sources at Ramallah Government Hospital, Yusuf Amira, a 17-year-old Palestinian boy, has been declared clinically dead after he was hit by 2 bullets fired by the Israeli occupation forces. In addition, 6 residents were wounded during a confrontation with the occupation army in the village of Laden, west of Ramallah. According to sources in the Popular Committee Against the Apartheid Wall of Annexation and Expansion, the occupation army attacked local residents in the town of Laden during a funeral procession for Ahmed Hassan Musa, a Palestinian child who was martyred by the occupation army. The attack took place near the eastern entrance of Laden. In the context of the ongoing Israeli aggression on the occupied city of Jerusalem and Jerusalemites, Israeli settlers, backed by the occupation police, tried to seize control of 2 homes in the Salam neighborhood in the town of Al-Isawiya, northeast the holy city.
It is the battle of an occupied nation, in which Israeli settlers are the perpetrators and the Palestinian rightful owners are the victims. In the Salam neighborhood in the town of Al-Isawiya in northeast occupied Jerusalem, a group of settlers tried to seize control of 2 Palestinian homes. This news comes after an Israeli court issued an eviction notice to the residents, ordering them to hand over the homes to the settlers.
At nearly 5 a.m., a convoy of 4 to 5 cars carrying Israeli settlers rolled into town and tried to seize control of 2 homes. This is not acceptable. The settlers are claiming the land was theirs. They can forge the deeds because they have control over the legal records.
The case didn't end here, as the settlers started to protest in front of the 2 seized homes, claiming they are the rightful owners. The settlers who attacked the local residents were escorted and backed by a large Israeli military force.
The settlers stormed into the homes and occupied them. They came from the valley, passing through here and the adjacent streets. They brought their families, including women and children, and seized control of these homes. What right do they have to come and take a home that doesn't belong to them? They're now inside our home. We don't know whether they intend to take it away or not. We don't have peace.
Meanwhile, in the occupied city of Jerusalem, where the Israeli occupation forces demolished the home of the Abu Aisha family, several Jerusalemite national and Islamic figures staged a sit-in near the rubble of the demolished home. The protesters built a sit-in tent to express solidarity with the Abu Aisha family, whose home was demolished a few days ago, hoping this will help ease the pain suffered by the Jerusalemite and help heal this wounded nation, which has suffered for so long.
We are holding a sit-in near the home of Majid Abu Aisha. The home was demolished on the day before yesterday. The Abu Aisha case has been in court for nearly 5 years. When examining the boring details of the case, you will come to a conclusion that there is no Israeli court that will serve justice to a Palestinian citizen. From the details of the case, it is clear that the court decision was politically motivated. It is also an attempt by Israel to prevent the Palestinian people from advancing. The Israelis do not issue new building permits to Palestinians, yet they continue to demolish what has already been built.
Meeting today in Jerusalem, the Security Cabinet heard a briefing from top security officials indicating that Hezbollah has stockpiled some 40,000 rockets and, according to a diplomatic source, now poses a greater security threat to Israel than does Iran. Meanwhile, Israel has revealed new anti-rocket systems and released 5 Palestinian prisoners in accordance with the final stage of the deal with Hezbollah that brought home the bodies of Udi Regev and Ehud Goldwasser. Elisha Rabin reports.
The prisoner exchange deal with Hezbollah that brought home the bodies of captured Israeli reservist Ehud Goldwasser and Eldad Regev is now complete. Israel handed over 5 live Palestinian prisoners as part of the last stage of the deal. That comes after the release of notorious Lebanese murderer Samir Kuntar last month, along with the bodies of 200 Arab fighters. Many in Israel believe that the prisoner exchange deal was one-sided, with Hezbollah getting much more from the pact than Israel. On the topic of Hezbollah, concerns came to a head regarding the possibility that the group will get its hands on advanced anti-aircraft missiles. The sophisticated weaponry would come from Russia. Some within the military are saying that Hezbollah would cross a red line if it indeed acquired anti-aircraft equipment, especially after yesterday's decision by the Lebanese government authorizing Hezbollah to attack Israel in order to regain so-called occupied lands. Stopping IAF overflights by using the new anti-aircraft system would become a Hezbollah obsession. At the same time, the Air Force practiced shooting down missile barrages yesterday using the newly upgraded Arrow 3. The drill was specifically aimed at stopping long-range interballistic missiles from Syria and Iran, some of which, such as the much-touted Iranian Shihab 3, could carry nuclear warheads. Brigadier General Daniel Milo said there's no reason to worry about such an attack, calling the capabilities of Israel's enemies less than a technological breakthrough. Relating to short-range rockets from Gaza, Milo said the military is setting up what it calls the Iron Dome anti-rocket system, but that system will not be operational until 2010. For IBA News, I'm Elisha Rabin.
The political improvement in Lebanon has had positive effects on the lives of the Lebanese. Life has returned to normal after it was significantly disturbed by the consecutive political crises.
واليوم هو يوم آخر عند اللبنانيين. فبعد الانفراجات الواسعة للأزمات السياسية والتي
Today is a new day for the Lebanese. We have resolved the political crises which were hopeless until recently. Lebanon now has a government and ministerial cabinet that are waiting for approval by the parliament. The Lebanese are known for their ability to live well and enjoy life, but they went through difficult conditions, especially considering that the Lebanese citizens have had both political and economic difficulties. They faced endless problems with electricity, telephone lines, social services, inflation, and an increase in reverse immigration. Today, the beloved sounds have returned to the Lebanese streets. They are full of Lebanese, Arab, and foreign visitors. The streets are full of pedestrians and the cafes have a good amount of traffic. After the end of the political nightmare, hopes were renewed for a shared homeland based on brotherhood among all. What do Lebanese citizens want from their government?
ماذا يطلب المواطن من الحكومة؟
In brief, the problem is the big economic burden that citizens have to deal with. Any new government must address the concerns of ordinary citizens. In Lebanon, we have two classes. One is the working class and the other is the semi-middle class. They must improve the living standards for people so they can live with dignity.
The social and economic conditions must be improved, and the government must be approved by the parliament.
We want the government to find a solution to the inflation problem in the country. As you know, the economic conditions are very difficult. We are optimistic. They have completed the ministerial declaration. We will see what the coming steps will be like.
The government must take care of its people and the economy. That is the most important thing. The people are now poor.
Lebanese expatriates are pleased that the political crises have ended.
What concerns us more than anything is security. As Lebanese expatriates who live in America, we mainly want Lebanon to stay safe so we can come and visit every year. This will help us spend a month or two in Lebanon with peace of mind.
Hopefully, the prayers of the following Arab tourists will become true. After all, Lebanon is relatively stable and calm.
We feel that everyone is happy. People are going out to the market. I hope that they can continue in the same path. God willing, I hope that they can forget the past and join together, so they can build a good future for Lebanon.
The formation of the government and resolving the ministerial deadlock have relieved the Lebanese citizens from political burdens. This government must start working to resolve the serious economic and social problems that Lebanese citizens face. From Beirut, Russia Zin, NBN.
The 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council and Germany held a closed session to discuss the Iranian letter, which was handed yesterday to European Union Foreign Policy Chief Javier Solana. They are also discussing new sanctions on Iran, though they have different views on this topic.
Good afternoon, everyone.
الولايات المتحدة تعمل على إقناع الدول الخمس الكبرى في المفاوضات مع إيران.
The U.S. is trying to convince the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council to impose new sanctions on Iran in order to force it to stop its uranium enrichment program. The 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council and Germany held a closed session today to discuss the Iranian letter, which was handed to European Union Foreign Policy Chief Javier Solana. The U.S. Undersecretary of State William Burns, who participated for the first time in the nuclear negotiations between Iran and the 5+1 countries, suggested what he views as several important steps to solve Iran's nuclear crisis. Burns gave a lecture at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, saying that the U.S. must impose stronger sanctions on Iran while working on a diplomatic option and opening bilateral relations with it. Burns acknowledged that the imposed economic and trade sanctions on Iran are not being implemented by countries such as Russia, China, Japan, South Korea, and even the United Arab Emirates. He said that Tehran uses these gaps in the international sanctions as a way to continue the Iranian enrichment program and to undermine the ability of the 5+1 countries to reach an agreement to impose new sanctions on it. Tehran promised to respond with a positive spirit to the European incentives, but did not give a specific time. Iran demanded a clarification from the 5+1 countries. Meanwhile, it continues its missile tests because it's betting that the time factor is on its side. Naja Muhammad Ali, Al Arabiya.
In the first U.S. war crimes trial since the Second World War, Osama bin Laden's driver has been found guilty of providing material support for terrorism. He's due to be sentenced later on Wednesday. The White House said that Salim Hamdan had received a fair trial after military jurors at Guantanamo Bay delivered a split verdict on terrorism charges against him. The trial has been taking place at the U.S. military base at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. Our correspondent Tom Ackerman is there.
The jury of 6 military officers took about 8 hours to determine that Hamdan was guilty of providing material support in the furtherance of terrorism, but they also acquitted him of a possibly more serious charge that he was conspiring to commit acts of murder against U.S. soldiers, a war crime. The government had contended that that, in fact, was a violation of the laws of war. The defense, had said that that, in fact, was not a war crime, that soldiers in the field of battle were fair game. Now, Hamdan's sentence is to be determined by that same jury. They will be considering that later on Wednesday, and their deliberations may possibly go into Thursday. They have absolute discretion on what the sentence might be, anywhere from no time served to life in prison. However, Hamdan will be going back to his cell here at Guantanamo indefinitely because he is still being held as a declared unlawful enemy combatant, and under U.S. law, he can be kept here as long as the government should choose. He also subject to an appeals process. He can appeal to the civilian authority at the Pentagon and further on all the way up to the United States Supreme Court.
France has described as unacceptable a report by the Rwandan government which alleges that Paris played an active role in the 1994 genocide. The Rwandan government made damning allegations against France, saying it was aware of preparations, contributed to planning and actively took part in the killing, which saw the death of more than 800,000 people. Harry Smith has more.
They're images which will haunt this part of Africa for generations, leaving the international community to wonder what more it could have done to prevent such slaughter. It was France which sent troops into Rwanda under a UN mandate. Now it's France which is being forced to defend its role, condemning accusations against it as unacceptable. The accusations come in a 500-page report which has taken 2 years to compile. It names 33 French soldiers and politicians who the Rwandan government say must now be brought to justice. Among them, the late President François Mitterrand, former French Prime Minister Edouard Balladur, former Foreign Minister Alain Juppé, and Dominique de Villepin, who was then Juppé's top aide and later became Prime Minister.
Hi, I'm Sandeep Roy. I'm an editor with New America Media and host of its radio show, Upfront. I'm here to ask for your support for Link TV and its flagship show, Mosaic, world news from the Middle East. Why am I asking you to support Mosaic? The truth. It's what I seek out in my own work to get news and perspectives I can't get anywhere else. And it's what Mosaic shows you every day on Link TV. Mosaic is the way we are able to bring news and insight into events in the Middle East to our audiences. For me, this unfiltered reporting is what American media is lacking most of all. American media is in crisis, and shows like Mosaic are too few and far between. Even after 7 years and a Peabody Award, there is still nothing else like it on the air anywhere. Each day, Mosaic offers a range of news and views from broadcasters around the Middle East, from Iran to Israel and everything in between. Mosaic provides a much-needed alternative to what we usually get from the mainstream media. It's uncensored, unfiltered, and it's unlike anything else on your television dial. So join me in supporting Mosaic by making a donation today. Just call 1-866-485-8848 and make a donation. You can also just click on the fundraising thermometer at linktv.org and make an online donation in any amount. Mosaic was founded by the support of generous foundations, but now it has grown in ways we could never have imagined, and almost 90% of its funding comes from you, the viewers. Now, more than ever before, Mosaic depends on its viewers to keep it alive. They need to raise $200,000 to stay on the air for the rest of the year. The number is right there on your screen, 1-866-485-8848. Any donation, big or small, will help. I'm a big believer of power in numbers, and I know there are thousands of Mosaic fans out there who watch regularly to hear the real story of the Middle East. So show Mosaic you value the truth by making a donation and helping them stay on the air for the rest of the year. Just go online at linktv.org and click on the thermometer to make a donation. While you're there, you can browse through the thousands of archived episodes of Mosaic or the popular Mosaic intelligence reports. Here's that number one last time, 1-866-485-8848. Or go online to linktv.org and help us keep Mosaic alive. Thank you.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.